It started as a grand diplomatic gesture, so the aliens claimed. The Yalthari, a species known across the galaxy for their superior intellect and technological mastery, had long maintained a role as the self-proclaimed custodians of lesser civilizations. When humanity achieved faster than light travel and emerged on the galactic stage, the Yalthari were quick to take notice. At first, their interest seemed benign. They reached out to Earth with messages of peace and cooperation, extolling the virtues of unity in the vast expanse of space. But as history would later prove, their intentions were far more complex. The announcement of the Yalthari's gift was broadcast across Earth with great fanfare. Humanity watched in awe as the massive alien mothership entered Earth's orbit, sleek silver hull glowing faintly in the sunlight. The world waited with bated breath as the Yalthari envoy addressed Earth, their voice smooth and authoritative, translated perfectly into every human language. To mark the beginning of a new era of friendship, the envoy declared, "We present to humanity a vessel from our fleet, a ship to explore the stars, to learn, and to grow." The message was met with cheers and celebration. News outlets around the globe proclaimed it a historic moment. Humanity had been gifted a key to the galaxy, a gesture of trust from a species far older and more advanced. The ship, named Sheikh Tal in the Yalthari tongue, descended from the mothership like a falling star, glowing faintly as it entered Earth's atmosphere. It landed with precision in the Nevada desert, where a team of human scientists, engineers, and dignitaries waited. At first glance, the Sheikh Tal was awe-inspiring. Its design was distinctly alien, with flowing contours and intricate markings that glowed faintly in the dim light. To the untrained eye, it was a marvel, a technological masterpiece from beyond the stars. But as the human team approached the ship, their awe began to fade. Up close, the Sheikh Tal showed signs of wear. Its once sleek hull was tarnished and scarred, as though it had seen countless battles or centuries of neglect. When the team entered the ship, their initial wonder turned to confusion. The interior was cramped and outdated. The control panels, though advanced by human standards, appeared ancient compared to the sleek technology of the Yalthari mothership. It didn't take long for the truth to emerge. The Sheikh Tal was not a gift of goodwill, it was an insult. The ship, while still more advanced than anything humanity had, was clearly the weakest in the Yalthari fleet. It was a relic, discarded and repurposed as a diplomatic gesture. The Yalthari hadn't given humanity a tool to join the stars, they had thrown Earth a bone, expecting gratitude and subservience in return. The revelation sparked outrage among the scientists. "They think we're fools," muttered Dr. Eliza Carter, one of the lead researchers assigned to Stein to study the Sheikh Tal. "This isn't a gift, it's a hand-me-down." Chief Engineer Daniel Wu, inspecting the ship's propulsion system, shook his head in disbelief. It's like they emptied their junk drawer and called it charity. Despite the initial anger, there was no denying the opportunity that lay before them. Humanity, for all its flaws, had a unique talent, the ability to adapt. Instead of rejecting the ship or letting humiliation take root, the team made a decision. They would not let the Yalthari dictate the narrative. "What if we make this our own?" Daniel suggested, his eyes glinting with determination. "We take what they gave us, as broken as it is, and turn it into something they can't even imagine." It was a bold idea, and it sparked a fire among the team. The Sheikh Tal, for all its flaws, still held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Its systems, though outdated, operated on principles that humanity had never encountered. It wasn't just a ship, it was a puzzle, a challenge, and perhaps a gateway to something greater. As the team got to work, humanity's response became clear. The Yalthari might have given them the weakest ship in their fleet, but they had underestimated the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. The Sheikh Tal was transported to a sprawling research facility hidden deep in the Nevada desert. To the untrained eye, it seemed like a husk of wasted potential, a faded relic of alien glory. But to the team of scientists and engineers assembled there, it represented a tantalizing mystery. The Yalthari had given humanity a riddle disguised as a spaceship, and it was up to these brilliant minds to solve it. Dr. Eliza Carter, a physicist renowned for her work in quantum mechanics, stood before the ship on its first day of analysis, her arms crossed as she examined its strange contours. Next to her, Chief Engineer Daniel Wu was already knee-deep in diagnostics, armed with a collection of tools both conventional and experimental. "This thing is like nothing we've ever seen," Daniel muttered, running a hand along the cold metallic surface. "Look at this alloy, it's not just metal. It's alive, in a way." Eliza tilted her head, intrigued. "Alive how?" "Microreactive. It adjusts to temperature, pressure, hell, even light intensity. It's constantly shifting. The Lothari probably grew this ship more than they built it." The team quickly discovered that while the Sheikh Tal was old, its technology was far from useless. The propulsion system was unlike anything Earth had ever conceived of. Instead of relying on fuel or thrust, it appeared to manipulate space-time itself. But the system was heavily degraded, its alien components either malfunctioning or incomprehensible. "This isn't just a machine," Eliza said one evening as she studied the ship's core systems. "It's a framework. They didn't give us the car, they gave us the blueprint for how they think about physics." Days turned into weeks, and the team's frustration mounted. Every system they accessed seemed to offer more questions than answers. The propulsion core, which they dubbed the heart, was a particularly vexing enigma. It pulsed faintly with energy, as though it were alive, but no human instrument could measure or define its output. "Everything's locked behind their language," Daniel grumbled, flipping through reams of alien schematics projected onto a holographic screen. "It's like they wanted us to fail before we even started." Eliza wasn't sure. She had spent countless hours deciphering the alien symbols etched into the ship's consoles and walls. To her, they seemed almost elegant, mathematical formulas woven into art. "It's not a lock," she said one late night, startling Daniel as he dozed off at his workstation. "It's a lens." He blinked. "What are you talking about?" "They're not trying to block us from understanding this. They're forcing us to look at it the way they do." "It's a test, Daniel. They're testing how far we're willing to go to adapt." That realization marked a turning point. Instead of treating the Sheikh Tal like a broken ship, the team began to approach it as a living puzzle, a challenge to their very way of thinking. They modified Earth's tools, created entirely new algorithms, and began to adapt their understanding of physics to match what the ship demanded. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly during a routine diagnostic. Daniel, frustrated with a particularly stubborn subsystem, applied a human-engineered patch to bridge one of the ship's severed neural conduits. The moment the connection was made, the ship roared to life. The Sheikh Tal's systems flickered and glowed with renewed intensity. Lights danced along its interior, and the propulsion core emitted a low hum that resonated through the entire facility. "What the hell did you do?" Eliza asked, running into the control room. "I didn't fix it," Daniel replied, his voice trembling. "I woke it up." The ship's systems, dormant for what could have been centuries, began to respond. Readings from Earth's instruments spiked, showing energy levels far beyond what anyone thought possible. The Sheikh Tal wasn't just operational, it was evolving. From that moment, the team realized they weren't just repairing a relic, they were creating something new. The Sheikh Tal was becoming a hybrid of alien ingenuity and human determination. It wasn't the insult the Yilthari had intended. It was a challenge humanity was ready to meet. The breakthrough came on a clear morning after weeks of relentless effort. Exhaustion hung over the research facility like a dense fog, but the team refused to stop. The Sheikh Tal had gone from being an enigmatic artifact to a near obsession. Every scientist and engineer involved felt as though they were standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the vast unknown. The question wasn't just whether the ship could work, it was whether humanity was ready to see what it could do. Daniel Wu and his engineering team had spent countless hours modifying the propulsion core. The alien technology was brilliant but fragmented, like a puzzle missing critical pieces. To compensate, Daniel had introduced human systems, some cutting edge, others cobbled together from salvaged parts into the ship's framework. The result was a strange, patchwork interface that was as much Earth's creation as it was Lothari. "Today's the day," Daniel said, his voice edged with both fatigue and excitement. "We're firing this thing up, one way or another." In the control room, Eliza Carter monitored the ship's systems from a wall of holographic displays. The readings were erratic but promising. The Shaketal's core pulsed steadily, its energy output rising as the team fed it calculated bursts of power. "Are we ready for this?" she asked, her tone measured but wary. "No," Daniel admitted with a grin, "but let's do it anyway." The room filled with tense silence as the countdown began. At 0, Daniel initiated the test. The ship's propulsion system activated with a low hum that quickly grew into a resonant vibration. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Shaketal remained stationary, its alien hull gleaming faintly under the desert sun. Then, without warning, it vanished. For 6 agonizing seconds, the ship was gone. Every sensor in the facility registered nothing, no energy signature, no heat, no mass. It was as though the Shkal had ceased to exist. Panic rippled through the team, but before anyone could react, the ship reappeared with a blinding flash of light. "What the hell just happened?" someone shouted. Eliza's eyes darted across the data streams flooding her screens. It jumped. The ship just jumped. But this wasn't propulsion in the traditional sense. It manipulated space-time. It folded reality. Daniel, still standing at the controls, was staring at the ship through the observation window. "It didn't just move," he said slowly. "It moved differently. Look at the coordinates." The Shaketal had traveled over 300 miles in an instant. But more than that, the readings suggested it hadn't taken a direct path. It had momentarily existed outside conventional space-time before reappearing at its destination. The room erupted into a frenzy of activity as the team scrambled to make sense of what they'd witnessed. The ship's systems had executed something that wasn't just faster than light travel, it was something far stranger. It had rewritten the rules of movement itself. As the hours passed and the data was analyzed, the implications became clearer. The Shaketal wasn't simply a vessel for travel. It was a tool for bending reality. The propulsion system, powered by the alien core and modified by human ingenuity, had the potential to do far more than anyone had anticipated. "This changes everything," Eliza said, her voice hushed with awe. "If we can control this, if we can refine it, we're not just talking about travel. We're talking about rewriting the fundamental laws of physics." The team was exhilarated, but also deeply aware of the risks. They had unlocked something extraordinary, something that could propel humanity into a new era or destroy it entirely. The Shaketal was no longer just a ship. It was a bridge to possibilities no one could fully comprehend. Word of the experiment spread quickly, reaching beyond the confines of the research facility. Governments, scientists, and even the general public began to realize the potential of what humanity now possessed. The Ylthari, however, remained skeptical. From their perspective, the humans were playing with tools they didn't understand, a dangerous endeavor that would end in failure or catastrophe. But the humans didn't see it that way. For them, the Shaketal wasn't just a gift or an insult. It was a challenge, and they had just proven they were more than capable of rising to meet it. The weakest ship in the Ylthari fleet had become the foundation of humanity's most significant leap into the unknown. The Ylthari noticed the ripples before they noticed the humans. Strange distortions began appearing in the galactic space-time matrix, subtle at first but growing in frequency and intensity. Entire trade routes became unstable, with gravity wells shifting unpredictably and causing navigation systems to malfunction. The Ylthari, masters of interstellar stability, were perplexed. They traced the anomalies back to a single source: Earth. At first, they dismissed the possibility. Humanity, a fledgling civilization barely worthy of their notice, couldn't possibly be responsible for something so significant. The idea that these primitives could manipulate space-time on a scale large enough to impact the galaxy was absurd. But the data didn't lie. The epicenter of the disruptions coincided precisely with the location of the Shaketal. The Ylthari Council convened in haste, their vast chamber alive with the soft glow of their bioluminescent skin. The leaders debated the implications of humanity's experiments. "It must be a malfunction," one of them said, their tone dismissive. "The ship was ancient and damaged when we handed it over. They've likely broken it further." But the scale of these disruptions, another countered, suggests intentional manipulation. If they've somehow activated the ship's systems, if they've modified it, then we may have underestimated their ingenuity. The idea was met with a mixture of disbelief and irritation. The Ylthari, for all their technological brilliance, were a proud species. The thought that humans could achieve something they hadn't anticipated bordered on offensive. Nevertheless, they decided to act. A fleet of Ylthari ships was dispatched to Earth, ostensibly under the guise of a diplomatic mission. Their true purpose, however, was far more pointed. They intended to investigate the Sheikh Tal and, if necessary, retrieve it. The Ylthari could not afford to let a lower species meddle with technology they barely understood. When the fleet arrived, their presence was anything but subtle. Massive Ylthari ships hovered ominously in Earth's orbit, their sleek, iridescent hulls casting long shadows over the planet. The humans were quick to respond. Earth's government sent envoys to meet the Ylthari delegation, while scientists at the Nevada facility worked frantically to safeguard their progress. The Ylthari envoy wasted no time. "You have meddled with forces beyond your comprehension," they declared, their melodic voice dripping with condescension. "Return the Sheikh Tal to us before irreparable damage is done." Dr. Eliza Carter, chosen as one of humanity's representatives, met the envoy's gaze without flinching. "You gave us the ship," she said firmly. "You didn't impose conditions or limitations. What we've done with it is our business." The Ylthari emissary's glow dimmed slightly, a sign of irritation. "You are reckless. You've destabilized interstellar pathways critical to our civilization. Your actions endanger the balance of the galaxy." Eliza's response was measured but pointed. "Your galaxy has been balanced on your terms for far too long. Maybe it's time for a little change." The tension between the two species was palpable. The Ylthari, accustomed to being unquestioned arbiters of galactic order, found themselves facing a species that refused to back down. Worse, the humans had the means to hold their ground. As the Ylthari pressed their demands, the team at the facility pushed forward with their experiments. The Sheikh Tal had become a hybrid unlike anything the Ylthari could have imagined. Its systems, enhanced by human modifications, were now capable of controlled spacetime distortions. During a demonstration to Earth's leaders, the ship created a temporary bubble in which time flowed backward for 30 seconds. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a tool that could reshape reality itself. The Ylthari were no longer simply annoyed. They were afraid. They realized that humanity wasn't just tinkering with their discarded technology. They were mastering it, pushing its boundaries in ways the Ylthari hadn't thought possible. The Ylthari Council debated their next move. Some argued for immediate military action, but others hesitated. Humanity had demonstrated an ability to turn even the weakest piece of Ylthari technology into something extraordinary. If the humans had advanced this far with a single ship, what else might they be capable of? Meanwhile, on Earth, Eliza and her team continued their work. They knew the Ylthari weren't finished, but neither were they. The Sheikh Tal was no longer just a ship, it was a statement. The Ylthari had underestimated humanity, and now they were watching the consequences unfold in real time. For the first time in millennia, the Ylthari realized they might no longer be the most innovative species in the galaxy. The arrival of the Ylthari fleet set off a chain reaction that rippled through humanity's collective consciousness. The global media buzzed with speculation, fear, and cautious hope. While some saw the Ylthari's presence as a sign of impending conflict, others believed it might lead to new opportunities for dialogue and collaboration. Within the Nevada facility, however, the mood was far more focused. The Sheikh Tal was no longer just a scientific project, it was humanity's greatest leverage. Dr. Eliza Carter paced the control room, her mind racing through contingencies. The Ylthari emissary's threats were still fresh in her mind, but her resolve had only hardened. They couldn't back down now. The Sheikh Tal represented not just technological progress, but humanity's capacity to define its place in the galaxy. Chief Engineer Daniel Wu entered, carrying a tablet displaying the latest diagnostics. "The ship's systems are stabilizing," he said. "That last distortion test pushed the core, but it's holding. We've made more progress in the last 6 weeks than I thought possible." Eliza nodded. "Good, because we're out of time. The Ylthari aren't going to sit idle for long." She turned to the team, who were gathered around their workstations. "We need to push further. If the Ylthari think they can intimidate us into handing this ship back, they're wrong. but we need to show them we're not just fumbling around in the dark. The team worked tirelessly, delving deeper into the Sheikhal's systems. The propulsion core became their primary focus, a nexus of alien and human engineering that now pulsed with an almost sentient rhythm. The core wasn't just generating energy, it was manipulating reality itself in ways the team was only beginning to understand. Eliza spent hours analyzing the core's behavior. The more she studied it, the more she realized that the Sheikh was far more than a tool for travel. Its potential extended into areas of physics that bordered on the metaphysical. Space and time were merely suggestions within the ship's operational framework, and the Wilthari had either overlooked or deliberately obscured this capability. "We're not just bending space-time," Eliza said during a late-night briefing. "We're rewriting it. The core doesn't just create distortions, it defines the parameters of what's real within its influence." Daniel leaned back in his chair, a mixture of awe and trepidation on his face. "You're saying this thing isn't just a ship. It's a forge for reality itself." Eliza nodded. "Exactly. And if we can harness it, we're not just talking about travel or defense. We're talking about reshaping the galaxy." The implications were staggering. The Sheikh had the potential to redefine the laws of physics on a scale that could rival the Ilthari's most advanced technology. But with that power came immense responsibility and danger. Meanwhile, the Ilthari were not idle. Their emissaries continued to demand the return of the Sheikh, their tone growing increasingly insistent. They warned of catastrophic consequences if humanity continued its experiments, but their warnings only fueled Earth's determination. Then came the incident. During a controlled test of the Sheikhal's distortion capabilities, a malfunction occurred. The ship's core overloaded, sending out a massive ripple through spacetime. For several seconds, reality seemed to fracture. Objects within the facility appeared to shift in and out of existence, and time itself seemed to stutter. When the anomaly subsided, the team was shaken but unharmed. However, the incident had sent shockwaves far beyond Earth. Ilthari sensors detected the event immediately, and the Council interpreted it as a threat. "This is why they cannot be allowed to continue," one council member declared. "The humans are tampering with forces they cannot control. If we do not act, they will destabilize the galaxy." But not all Wilthari agreed. A growing faction within the council began to argue that humanity's progress was not reckless, it was revolutionary. The humans had taken the weakest ship in the Wilthari fleet and transformed it into something the Ilthari themselves had never envisioned. Back on Earth, Eliza and her team regrouped. The incident had been a setback, but it also provided invaluable data. The Sheikh core wasn't just a reactor, it was a beacon. It was beginning to respond to human innovation in ways even the Ilthari hadn't anticipated. "We're closer than ever," Eliza said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "This isn't just about proving ourselves to the Wilthari anymore. It's about defining what humanity is capable of. If we can control this, we're not just part of the galaxy, we're shaping its future." The team doubled down, pushing the Sheikh to its limits. With every test, they learned more about the ship's capabilities and about themselves. Humanity wasn't just adapting to the Ilthari's technology. They were surpassing it, creating something entirely new. And the galaxy was starting to notice. The Ilthari Council's debate had reached a tipping point. On one side were those who viewed humanity's experimentation with the Sheikh as reckless, a dangerous game that threatened the delicate balance of interstellar civilization. On the other side were those who saw potential and opportunity for the Ilthari to learn from the humans, perhaps even partner with them in unlocking the ship's full capabilities. But the humans weren't waiting for consensus. On Earth, the Nevada facility buzzed with urgency as Eliza Carter and her team prepared for their boldest test yet. The Sheikh was no longer an ancient relic, it had become something entirely new, a fusion of alien ingenuity and human innovation. The propulsion core now thrummed with a steady, powerful rhythm, its energy output unlike anything the Yulsar or anyone else had ever recorded. Eliza stood in the control room, staring at the holographic projection of the Sheikh. The ship had changed since they first received it. Its once dull exterior now shimmered faintly, as though responding to the energies coursing through its systems. Even its shape seemed to have subtly shifted, the edges softer, more fluid. The ship felt alive, and not just in the metaphorical sense. "We're ready for the next test," Daniel Wu said, stepping up beside her. His face was a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Eliza glanced at him. "Are we? Really?" He gave a wry smile. "Probably not. But when has that ever stopped us?" The test wasn't just another jump. This time, they planned to push the Sheikh tall beyond anything it or they had attempted. The goal was to create a stable space-time bubble, a pocket of reality that could exist independently of the universe's natural laws. If successful, it would prove that the ship's capabilities extended far beyond simple travel. As the countdown began, the team held their breath. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional beep of monitors. At 0, Eliza gave the signal. The Sheikh responded instantly. Its propulsion core flared with blinding light, and a shockwave rippled outward, distorting the air around it. For a moment, the ship seemed to dissolve, its form shimmering like a mirage. Then the distortion stabilized. On the monitors, the team saw something extraordinary. The ship was no longer anchored to Earth. It existed within a glowing, spherical pocket of space-time, an artificial reality completely under their control. The readings were staggering. Time within the bubble flowed differently, and the physical constants that governed the universe appeared to bend to the ship's will. "We did it," Daniel whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the equipment. Eliza nodded, her eyes fixed on the data. "We're not just bending the rules, we're rewriting them." But their success hadn't gone unnoticed. In orbit, the Ylthari fleet detected the anomaly immediately. Their instruments recorded the creation of the space-time bubble with alarm, the energy signatures unlike anything they had seen before. The Ylthari emissary contacted Earth's leaders, their tone urgent. "You must stop this at once. The consequences of your actions could be catastrophic." But humanity wasn't backing down. Eliza, now serving as an unofficial spokesperson for the project, addressed the emissary directly. "You gave us this ship. You gave us the opportunity to prove ourselves. And we've done that. We're not stopping now, not because of your fear." The Ylthari emissary's glow dimmed. "You do not understand the forces you're tampering with. If you lose control, the ripple effects could destroy entire systems." Eliza's voice was calm but firm. "Then help us, work with us, share your knowledge instead of trying to suppress ours. Together we can control this." The Ylthari Council was divided. Some argued that humanity's actions were too dangerous, that the Sheikh should be reclaimed by force if necessary. But others began to see the humans in a new light. They weren't reckless, they were fearless. On Earth, the team prepared for the next phase. The space-time bubble was stable, but it was only the beginning. The Sheikh had shown them what was possible, and humanity was determined to see just how far they could go. As the Ylthari fleet loomed in orbit, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. A species that had once been dismissed as insignificant was now on the verge of rewriting the rules of existence itself. For the Ylthari, it was a moment of reckoning. For humanity, it was the dawn of a new era. The standoff between humanity and the Ylthari had reached a breaking point. The Ylthari fleet still hovered in Earth's orbit, their ships silent and imposing. On the surface, humanity's response had been clear, they weren't backing down. But beneath the bravado, Eliza Carter knew that the situation was more delicate than anyone cared to admit. The Sheikh had proven itself capable of extraordinary feats, but controlling its immense power was an entirely different challenge. Inside the Nevada facility, the team was preparing for the most dangerous test yet. The ship had already rewritten the laws of space and time in its immediate vicinity, but the true test would be to extend that control on a galactic scale. Eliza wasn't sure they were ready, but the weight of the decision had shifted beyond her. The Ylthari were forcing their hand. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had no choice but to show what they were capable of. "We're at the precipice," Daniel Wu said, his voice taut with anticipation. "If we can push the Sheikh systems further, if we can stabilize these distortions, we could make intergalactic travel possible. We could reshape the very fabric of the universe." Eliza nodded, her gaze fixed on the ship. It seemed so small, so fragile against the backdrop of space. But it was humanity's greatest weapon, and its potential was limitless. Yet despite their progress, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were playing with fire. "This is it," she murmured. "There's no going back from this." With the Yolthari still unwilling to compromise, the decision was made. The Sheikh Tal would initiate a deep space reality distortion, one that could open a permanent corridor to other star systems. It wasn't just a test, it was a declaration. If the Lothari wanted to stop them, they would have to act. As the countdown began, Eliza stood beside the ship's control console, her hand hovering over the activation panel. "This is it," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos of thoughts racing through her mind. "We're not just crossing borders anymore, we're creating them." The ship's core hummed with power, the resonance growing louder as the energy built within. The air around them vibrated with the force being summoned. The room was silent, except for the sounds of equipment whirring, each second stretching longer than the last. At 0, Eliza initiated the sequence. The Sheikh Tal flared with brilliant light, a beacon that stretched far beyond the ship's physical limits. The distortion radiated outward like ripples in a pond. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the fabric of space-time began to warp. A new dimension of space opened before them, a path leading to distant stars, and in an instant, the entire galaxy was within reach. The team watched, breathless. The bubble of reality that had been created stabilized, its edges defined by a shifting, shimmering field. The ship had successfully established a bridge, one that would allow travel between systems without the limitations of conventional methods. The impossible had become real. "We did it," Daniel whispered, a mixture of awe and disbelief in his voice. But the victory was short-lived. The Yolthari had already been watching. Their ships, which had remained passive up until this point, now sprang into action. The emissary's voice boomed across every communication channel. "Humanity has gone too far. You do not understand what you are dealing with. Return the Sheikh Tal or face the consequences." Eliza's heart raced as she heard the threat. She knew the Yolthari were powerful, but there was something in their tone that suggested more than just military force. There was fear in their words, fear that humanity had accomplished something they hadn't anticipated. "We're not going back," Eliza replied, her voice resolute. "The Sheikh Tal belongs to humanity now, and we will use it to secure our future. If you want it, come and take it." For the first time in history, the Yolthari found themselves facing a species they could not control, a species that had taken their discarded technology and turned it into something far more dangerous. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. In the wake of the declaration, the Yolthari hesitated. They had always been the arbiters of order, the stewards of galactic stability. Now they faced the realization that humanity was no longer just a fledgling race. They were pioneers, capable of rewriting reality itself. The Sheikh Tal wasn't just a ship, it was the key to a new era, one where humanity could not be ignored. As the Yolthari ships closed in, humanity stood united, aware that the future was uncertain, but knowing one thing for sure: they were no longer the weakest species in the galaxy. The Yolthari had underestimated them, and now they would have to reckon with the consequences.